So you want to move to South Italy? Well, today's video is going to be a good one for you because I'm sharing with you some scary truths about moving to Italy, because we are just a day away from Halloween, and although it isn't really a huge celebration here in Italy, in fact the biggest celebration is actually November the 1st, which is a public holiday here. People do still kind of recognise Halloween and some people celebrate it. So I thought, let me jump onto the whole Halloween theme and talk about some scary truths of moving to Italy, because I truly believe that having lived here now for 6 years, there are so many things that I didn't think about, that I didn't know about when I first decided to move to Italy back in 2017/18. And I really wish that I had been better prepared in many different aspects of my life. And so I want to better educate you on this channel. I want to share with you the reality, and that is a mix of good and bad things, so that you can better inform yourself and decide whether or not this is going to be the decision for you, and ultimately create a more successful life here in Italy. Because if you just believe the romantic fairy tale, you're only telling yourself half of the story. So, without further ado, let's get into the first scary truth of moving to South Italy: the hostile reception. Now, this is interesting because it's not really what you expect when you think about Italy. There is this really beautiful, dreamy notion of people here in Italy being super friendly and kind, especially here in the south. In the north of Italy, there is a bit of a stereotype that people are generally a bit colder, but it's a stereotype. Of course, there are always exceptions and it doesn't speak for everyone. But there is something I want to say. This is real life here. Although I have had, for the majority of cases, some fantastic experiences with people here, I have also met people here that are not very friendly and not very kind, because this is real life. It is not a fairy tale. So you have to expect that you're going to not necessarily find it easy to make friends at the very beginning. In fact, if you want to explore this topic in a bit more detail, I filmed a video about that up here. But essentially, it's going to take time for you to get to know people. And just because people say hello to you on the street and they seem really, really nice when you see them, it's not an all access pass to their life. Essentially, it is just the way that people are here, and they are very open and kind in this way, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be sitting at their kitchen table having dinner with their family tomorrow. So you really need to distinguish, really, the fact from the fiction when it comes to forming relationships here in Italy. It does depend where you live. It does depend on how your lifestyle is, if you're going to be working every day, if you're going to be able to interact with people on a regular basis. And it also depends on you as a person and your individual character. If you're naturally more insular and you don't really enjoy socializing, then of course you've got to expect that is going to impact the quality of the connections that you have here. So there are lots of factors that go into this mix, but I just want to prepare you and say that you may not have as welcome a reception as you had hoped. You may not instantly make the friends that you expected, and you may not meet people who are as friendly as the stereotypes lead you to believe. So that is the first part of this scary truth. The second part actually relates to fellow expats. I've spoken about expats so many times on this channel, I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself, but the message is so important, I think it's necessary to do so. You will find in various online expat communities, especially, a lot of negativity about Italy. You will find people warning you about your decision, trying to advise you against moving to Italy. But there's something that you must always remember about those kinds of comments. As much as it may seem it is packaged up in the form of advice and of people wanting to help you, it is always, always decorated with that person's limiting beliefs. What one person thinks is impossible for them, unfortunately means that they also think it too is impossible for you. Like, it is never without bias when somebody gives you those kinds of an opinion. They've had a negative experience, they think they're trying to help you by telling you, but essentially what they're doing is they're saying don't come because they've had a bad experience, but it doesn't mean you will. I remember when I first decided to move to Italy, I went into a number of these different online expat groups asking questions, expecting support because, you know, it's an expat group, right? People have decided to move to Italy. I'm sure that they want to help other people who are thinking of doing the same thing. But boy, oh boy, I was in for a rude awakening because people were really negative. I remember this was before Brexit as well. So it was really easy, in inverted commas, to move from the UK to Italy at that point. There weren't visa restrictions as there are now. But people were saying, you won't find a job, it's really difficult, don't come, blah, 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 blah. And you know, I defied all of those opinions and comments. And I'm so glad that I had the strength and resolve to want to make this happen, because otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here now. So I really think if you can approach expat groups with the right mindset, approach them as a way to try to make connections with people who are like-minded as you, try to learn what you can from them, but dismiss a lot of the negativity that you're reading there. I'm not saying to just believe all the positive things. You do need to educate yourself with both sides of the story, but essentially don't get hung up on all the negativity. Try to find a balance and a medium. But you do need to prepare yourself for this, because it can come as a bit of a shock. I have seen comments in expat groups, even recently, I kind of had a bit of a look in some of the groups, and people just seem generally surprised that they receive this backlash for suggesting that they want to move to Italy. It's not something that people really expect. So prepare yourself. You're going to face this from fellow expats, but you've just got to wade through the negativity and find the people that are right for you, because those kinds of communities can be an absolute godsend when you first set your life up here and you need to start building your connections. So don't dismiss them entirely, just be really selective as to the comments and the people that you listen to within them. The need to change. This is another scary truth about moving to Italy, because change is something that as humans we naturally fear. It is the unknown. It's the fact that you're going to have to put a lot of work in, make some sacrifices, do things differently, that causes people to paralyze and stagnate. And you need to remember something. Italy is unlike any other country you've lived in before. There may be similarities, particularly if you come from another Mediterranean country, but essentially Italy is pretty unique, I believe, because it is so divided, so different from one region to another, and also so complicated. So you need to prepare for the fact that you are going to undergo some serious changes when you move here. And for the most part, they are changes for the better. I have certainly improved many aspects of my life. In fact, in a recent video, I'll link it up here, I speak about some of the key lessons that Italy has taught me after 6 years. But I really believe that if you are resistant to change, I don't think you should move here. I think you need to be very honest with yourself. If you are used to a particular routine, if you are quite regimented in the things that you do, the activities you have, the products you buy, you've got to remember that you're not going to be able to carbon copy your life exactly as it is now in your country here in Italy. You are going to need to make some adjustments, some changes, and you're going to need to adapt in a way also your mindset to be able to fully embrace life here, especially here in South Italy. A lot of people say that South Italy feels almost separate from the rest of Italy because people have a different approach to things. People have almost a different mindset sometimes compared to other parts of Italy. And so you've got to be ready for that. You've got to be ready to learn, to grow, to evolve, to alter your diet a little bit. I promise you it will be for the better. To, you know, learn about the culture and the traditions and adopt some of the habits and routines that people have here. And, you know, essentially take what works for you from the culture here and use it to your advantage in your own life. Like, you have to be flexible. If you are a rigid person, you will find that your experience here absolutely sucks. It's the truth. And I think a lot of the negativity that you read about when it comes to living in Italy comes from people who are inflexible, come from people who came here with a particular mindset, a particular way that they wanted to live their life, only to realize that life here isn't really like that, and that you have to put the work in both for yourself and for the life that you're building and make significant changes. I am definitely not the same person who stepped foot here in South Italy in 2018. Not only am I a little bit older, but also a little bit wiser, and I have grown and evolved so much, and I'm grateful for that. If I was still the same person that I was when I first stepped foot in this country 6 years ago, I think I'd even be a bit disappointed, because the whole act of moving to another country changes you regardless, or should change you, because it's a new experience. And part of change involves opening your mind to new opportunities, new people, new experiences. And so you almost want to embrace change as being a really, really good thing, even if it feels scary, even if you don't have all the answers, and even if in that moment there's a certain degree of discomfort, because change always leads you to better things, even if you can't see it in the moment. Italy may not live up to your expectations. This is a bitter pill to swallow for so many people. As I've spoken about in this video up here, Italy, unfortunately, is heavily romanticised, and as a result, people come here with unrealistic expectations, and as such are subsequently disappointed when life doesn't meet up to the image they had created in their minds. You need to be realistic about this country. Watch the videos on my channel to learn about the realistic aspects of life here in South Italy. Watch other YouTubers talk about their experiences in different parts of Italy. But always remember, it's not going to be the picturesque postcard image every single day of your life here. You will have incredible highs here, incredible moments that make you feel so blessed to live in this country. But then you're also going to have rock bottom lows, things that stress you out, things that you find incredibly difficult. And this is the balance that you need to kind of navigate between, because it isn't always plain sailing here. Italy is extremely complicated and can be very difficult to live in as a country. In fact, I often hear people say that there are far easier countries in the world to move to than Italy. But Italy, as I've always said, is your greatest teacher. And if you want to know some more of the lessons that I talk about when it comes to living in Italy, have a look at my latest book. I'll link it up here, but it's called Lessons from the Boot. It's based on my podcast, and I talk about the lessons that living in Italy has taught me and the growth that I have undergone. So go take a look at that book if you're interested to know more. But essentially, it is this. You have to be realistic about the life that you're going to lead here. It's not going to be fairy tales and unicorns every day of the week. And I think if you are better prepared, you will ultimately have a much better experience here, and you'll stick it out for much longer as well. I honestly believe that people quit on Italy way too soon because they weren't prepared for what life was like here. They believed a certain aspect of it, they only wanted to know about a certain aspect of it. And when things got difficult, they kind of were like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting this, arrivederci. So educate yourself on all aspects, and just be realistic about what you expect your life to be like here. Don't believe the hype and the fairy tale. That is for the tourists and the people that will go home at the end of a 2-week stay. You are here for the long term, so you need to be better educated and prepared for what you're going to expect from this country. You'll appreciate language like never before. Language is something that, without a doubt, I did not appreciate half as much as I have appreciated since moving to Italy. When I lived in London, of course, always been able to understand everything, always been able to communicate. I didn't even think about how my life would look if I couldn't speak, or if I couldn't understand something that was happening around me. It didn't even cross my mind. Why would it? Like, I grew up in my country where, I understand the language perfectly. When I moved to Italy though, everything changed. For the first year to a year and a half, I completely lost my character, my identity, who I was as a person, because I couldn't communicate. I was extremely naive, and I'm really, really honest with you, because I believed I could get by with the English I had and the extremely, extremely limited, I just want to emphasize this, Italian that I had, which was essentially ciao and grazie. So essentially, I was stupid to even think that this was something that was possible, because it completely stripped my identity for a year to a year and a half. And that was one of the toughest moments of my time here in Italy. Ever since then though, I have really learned the importance of language learning, and it's been just a gradual evolution. It's not a race, it is time, it's a marathon. You've got to take your time. It's not like a sprint to the end. And I see so many people feel, in a way, a little bit inferior because it's been quite a few years that they've been living here and they still don't feel like they know the language well enough. But the point is, with every single month day, week, year you spend here in Italy, you are getting better at the language and you are improving. I sit here now 6 years later, and although I don't feel confident enough to say that I'm at a point of fluency, I can definitely tell you I understand so much more than I've ever understood in the entire time I've been here. And I'm also really happy because I'm starting to feel more confident in terms of expressing myself, initially with people that I know. I think I'm more shy and timid when it comes to talking to strangers because I get a bit nervous about their reactions if they don't understand what I'm saying, but that's something I'm working on. And I understand that it's like a staircase and you take a step every single day to improving yourself and your language learning. But I promise you, when you step foot in a country where English, if this is the language you speak, isn't as widely spoken as you'd hoped, it really knocks you for six if you are ill prepared. So take the time to learn the basics of the language at the very least. And when I mean the basics, I don't just mean two words like me, I mean basic expressions and phrases and ways that you can articulate yourself. And then understand that when you arrive here, your journey of learning the language is going to be an ever evolving one. There will always be new expressions, new phrases that you learn. Let's not forget there are regional dialects as well, so you'll learn expressions and phrases from those too, depending on where you are here in Italy. So just recognise that language is going to be something that becomes an integral part of your life. You will really recognise its importance maybe for the first time in your life when you actually start living here in Italy. But I don't want you to feel kind of insecure because you don't feel your language is at its peak. Just recognise that you're on a journey, and as long as you're putting the work in and you're making an effort, you are making progress, even if it feels like it's only a little. You may very well feel homesick. Now, this is something I don't think people really talk a lot about when it comes to moving to Italy, because the whole move itself is so exciting that I don't think people really sit with themselves for long enough to think, am I actually going to miss my country that I've come from? And you know, for me, I have experienced homesickness, and I think it was because I was here during 2020, 2021, you know, the pandemic years. And as a result, you know, that was a moment that really kind of drilled into me the fact that I wasn't in London and that I was far away from the people that I love. And it made me realise that when you move to another country, you are still human at the end of the day. You are still with you. You are naturally going to miss things from your country that you've come from, whether that is people, whether that is food, whether that is a television show, a book, it doesn't matter. There are going to be aspects of life from your country that you have come from that you are going to miss. And this is perfectly okay. It's perfectly normal. I feel like there is a sense of shame around this that people don't talk about, because people think, I took the decision to move to Italy, I should be grateful, I shouldn't be reminiscing on my past life. Well, it's natural, we're humans, we're going to be looking back, and often it's with rose-tinted glasses. We often forget about the troubles that we had in the past, but we are naturally going to do that, and we are naturally going to miss certain aspects. Now, for me, for example, I'm wearing like a very thin jumper today. We are at the end of October. I'm in Palermo, Sicily. I don't even really need to be wearing this. I could be wearing a t-shirt. Like, it's super mild here at the moment, considering the month and the fact that we are about to enter into November. But my mind is so like back in the UK sometimes with the seasons that I feel comfortable wearing this because I'm like, it's nearly November. Even after 6 years, I'm not used to wearing a t-shirt at this time of year. So there will be naturally certain aspects of your life that, you know, you hold on to, even though you are living in Italy. And I just think you've just got to embrace that. You've got to recognise the fact that you will miss certain things. I never thought in a million years that I would ever say that I miss the grey skies of London. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't miss them that much, but there is a part of me that is like craving for gloomy days so that I can light the candles, have a cup of tea and feel really cosy in my home. Permanent sunshine is delightful, but after a while, if you've come from a country where there are fairly regular seasons, I can't say that we have proper seasons in the UK because predominantly it's autumn and winter in the UK, let's be real, but fairly regular change of seasons, even if they are only very short seasons like summer, for example. But you know, when you live in a country where the seasons just seem to merge into like just two, really, winter and summer, It's strange not to have that kind of in between with like the autumn and the cozier kind of afternoons and the grey skies and the rain. It's beautiful. I love the sunshine, definitely. It's very good for your body and for your mind, but I also do miss that kind of subtle change in seasons. And so those kinds of things can make you feel homesick. So what I think you should do is to prepare yourself for this. I think you need to be realistic about the things that you might miss when you actually move to Italy, and maybe create a kind of toolkit to cope with those kinds of things. So if it's a particular food, you're going to make it your mission to find something of equivalent here in Italy. If it's a television show, you're going to do the same thing, or you're going to see if you can still watch it from Italy itself. You know, if it's the weather, well, what can you do in your home to make it cozier of an evening? The evenings are getting darker now. I'm lighting candles, I'm putting lamps on. I'm making my space feel cozy so that even if outside during the day it resembles late summer, in my house of an evening it resembles autumn. And that's what you can do. You can do little things that help you to cope with homesickness. It is a real thing. It is something that you need to kind of address and not make it be the elephant in the room. Talk about it, approach it with that kind of open mindset, and I really think that you'll help yourself to feel better as a result. Moving to Italy is a super scary thing to do, but I can promise you it is one of the best decisions that you will ever make in your life if you're interested in growing as a person and developing and evolving and essentially opening your mind up to a completely different culture and way of life. And if you're really serious about it, I think you should steal my Move to Italy strategy and watch this video next. I'll see you in the next video.